The second time period that we deal with in our displays at the museum begins around 9000 BC, or roughly 11,000 years ago. And in contrast to the Paleo-Indians that I talked about previously, this is what is called by archaeologists archaic. And it dates from 11,000 years ago down to about 3,000 years ago, or ends about roughly 1000 BC. And in this second diorama, we show some of the changes that have occurred to the lifestyles of First Nations groups in this area at that time. By this time, I mentioned in the earlier time period, the environments were not like they are today, but it was during the Archaic that essentially we had the appearance of environments that are the same as we find in southern Ontario today, with all sorts of deciduous trees and all sorts of plants and so on, and particularly plants that provide a lot of food and nourishment and so on that could be used. So unlike the previous time period, there was a shift in the Archaic to using more and more of these plant foods and so on, and that's sort of illustrated in the diorama where you see in this case women and children gathering plant foods on the right here to illustrate that. We also of course have changes in the kinds of technologies, and it's these changes that are used by archaeologists in order to recognize what's going on and recognize sites as being of this age. And we see some of those kinds of tools being used in woodworking. This is one of the major things that appears, is large woodworking tools appear in the Archaic, hafted and used as adzes for making dugout canoes, and you can see in the background as well we have other individuals using these axes and so on for this particular purpose. At this period, as I say, people began to broaden their resource base. We have more emphasis on fishing. There's also more sites indicating that populations were growing, and people weren't traveling as far to get resources because there were more resources that they could actually take at this particular time period.